Yeah, welcome, Praveen. Hello. Yeah,
Yeah, I just put my mic off. Now it's on. Yeah,
yeah. Welcome, welcome.
welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Very good afternoon to everyone gathered here. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Jared, faculty in the Goa Business School, Goa University, and I shall be the host for this workshop. Along on behalf of Goa University's Institution Innovation Council, it's a pleasure to welcome you for today's workshop on design thinking, critical thinking, and innovation design. The workshop is fourth in the series of webinars organized by Goa University's IIC Cell, and the speaker for today's session is Mr. Praveen Sabnis. Before we begin, let me mention a few guidelines we will adhere to for smooth sailing of this workshop. Kindly switch off your camera and mute your mics to avoid any disturbance to the participants or to the speaker. Google Meet supports up to 100 attendees. In case you get disconnected and not able to join back again, you can join the YouTube live stream on the Goa University YouTube channel. A feedback link will be put up here in the chat on Google Meet and also in the YouTube live stream chat. It is mandatory that you fill in the short feedback as those registered participants will receive an e-certificate for that. Questions will be taken up after the session by the speaker. Now let me introduce the speaker for today's session. Mr. Praveen Savnis is a life coach with a passion for helping people connect with their potential. Through his company, Unlearning Unlimited, he has conducted over 2,000 workshops for leading corporates and other teams. He founded the Trainers Association in Goa. He is a certified trainer of Training Academy of Junior Chamber International in the United States of America. He has authored 8 manuals since the first Monday of 2004, and he writes a weekly blog called Monday News. I welcome you, Mr. Subnis, and I kindly request you to take over the session.
I hope you can all hear my voice because I couldn't hear Jared's voice very well. Also, I am not able to.
Mr. Subnis,
I'm not able to present screen.
Can you try again?
The screen sharing thing has been turned off. That's the indication I'm getting.
So, can you try again, Mr. Subnis?
Yeah, now it's coming up. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Just give me 10 seconds and I'll just get it.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll use the slideshows in between and we can interact also. And I would also expect you to respond, participate on in the chat box as well as maybe sometimes even speak by putting your mics on. So this is a session, as you all know, on cognitive skills, design thinking, critical thinking, and I would like to start by asking you to get to your chat boxes and tell me, is it by religion, can you tell, or by nationality, or maybe by race, by language, or even by gender, whether it's a boy or girl? If you can show me and tell me. Yes, you could type that in the chat box. Okay, since I'm not seeing any, we can't really tell, we can't tell the nationality of this child, or can't see. I purposely took it as a black and white photograph so that it becomes even more difficult. We can't tell the language, the nationality, but we can definitely tell some things about this child or any child. And that's what I want you to understand. That all of us, children who are born, we are born to win with these 4 qualities. One, we are born without a sense of shame. Okay, we may not be wearing clothes, or we may not be having what are things that we should have, but we may not have a sense of shame. Okay, because it comes in later, sense of shame. So while a child could be shy, they may not necessarily have a sense of shame. Similarly, with the failure, a child doesn't know to walk, it doesn't know to talk, it doesn't know to do a lot of things, but it does them by failing, by attempting and maybe not doing it right or not doing it enough. But eventually they don't get discouraged because they don't have a feeling of failure. Even if they're upset, while learning to walk, if they can't walk and they can start crying, but then again they'll try to walk. Okay. I had met once a baby, who was uh, not having feet because they were, removed for certain reasons. But that child learned to walk on its hands because it didn't have a feeling of failure. But later on, when we grow up, somebody may compare us and we can have a feeling of failure. The child can easily shift focus. It could be happy and it can suddenly start crying, or it can be crying and it can be distracted from it. You can show it a rainbow or a butterfly, and it can shift focus easily. So it doesn't remain in a particular mental state for too long. Okay, and of course most of the time it's quite happy because it's curious, it's trying to look around, it's what you'd say, happy to note things that it knows it doesn't know. There is curiosity, there is that element of discovery, and they're able to shift focus. We all were able to do that. And imagination is they say there are some children who are born without the sense of sight. Even they have imagination. Now they have not seen things. Okay, or there could be there have been people who don't have a sense of hearing, and they have been known to produce some fantastic music, play music. To us, imagination shows us dreams. It also shows us fears. Both things, hopes and fears, both dreams and nightmares. But imagination makes them look bigger. So the dream looks bigger. The the nightmare looks bigger. The fear seems bigger. But it's a wonderful thing, it's because because you imagine, imaginative people will see both things bigger, right? Hope as well as fear, dreams as well as nightmares. And but it's a wonderful thing. These are four wonderful things we are born with. All human beings are born with. And this is very important for us to realize that this is something that we are born with, but as we grow up, we quite often we lose touch with, or lose what you would say, hold on these four things. So we start having a sense of shame, we start having a feeling of failure, we find it very difficult to shift focus from the negative to the positive. We don't seem to be able to use our imagination too much. We try to get straight to the, whatever we want to look at, and all these things start changing. So cognitive skills, when we are talking of, okay, cognitive skills, core skills used by the brain to think, read, learn, remember, reason out, and pay attention. Working together, they take whatever information that's coming in, whatever inputs are coming in, and they move it to what is called a bank of knowledge, and that's what we use every day, right? So cognitive skills help develop that various types of information that is coming in, and we are able to use it later on. now not as simple as that. It also means how do we take it. That will be a very important thing. So when we get cognitive skills, I will uh, this we find in the older children we find it a lot. Like students may have an answer to tell. A teacher asks a question, you may have an answer to say, but you may not say. Okay. Or somebody says something to you and somebody shouts at you and you want to shout back and you don't shout back. Okay. So responsiveness. Then the speed of information processing. There are some of us who have a slower speed, some of us who have a faster speed. And it doesn't eventually, it doesn't really matter unless you require something to be done with speed. All right. But we need to understand this and that the speed varies. There is cognitive flexibility and control. How, what you'd say, adaptive we can be, how we can adjust. And I'll be doing this to some very practical stuff. All right. Then multiple simultaneous attention, many things happening at the same time and also being received from multiple sensory, receptors that we have. Then working memory, category formation, you are putting them actually in like boxes, and pattern recognition. So these are 4 core cognitive capacity, and we will look at them in a very interesting sort of way. So now what I want you to do, I want any one of you to put your mic on and read what comes next. I only want one person to put your mic on. Yeah, I've got some message that the audio is cracking, but I think even when I was listening, I wasn't able to hear very clearly. So I don't know what, I think it's a problem with Google Meet. So who will put the mic on? You need to speak up so that I know you put your mic on. Any one person. I wanted to make this interactive actually, that's why. Any one person put your mic on.
Yeah, I can do it. This is Preeti here.
Vishnu Chari or Labani Sarkar, you could do that. And then I'll put up. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll put up a certain set of words, but they're written in color. I want you to read the color, not the word. Clear? Is that fine? Yes? Whoever had spoken now, please tell me yes. Then I'll put the slide.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I want you to read the color of the words, not the word. Okay, read the color.
Green,
Go ahead.
red. Can you hear me? Is my voice audible?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Green, red, blue, yellow.
Please go ahead. Faster.
I'll start again. Green, red, blue, yellow, blue, black, red, blue, green,
Please read
black,
fast. Yeah, please read fast.
red, yellow, green, blue, black. I'm done. Oh, there's another line. Sorry. blue, red, and green.
Okay, now can you read the words fast?
Okay. Yellow, blue, orange, black, red, green, purple, yellow, red, orange,
Fast.
green, black, blue, red, purple, green. Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, fine, good. Okay, now if any one of us was asked to read, we would have this, the same thing happening, that we would able to read the, she did make one mistake while reading the words. She said the word instead of the color the first time. The second time she didn't make any mistakes, right? But it would happen to all of us. And this is something very important that I want you to understand. That all of us who are older than young babies like the one I showed you, we will tend to read more easy than tell the color. Okay, there would be some exceptions in ours, and I'll tell you why they are exceptions also. But most of us would be more comfortable reading the words very fast. So what I want you to understand is that our brain, now this terminology that I'm explaining to you is not a physical terminology of the brain. There are four hemispheres, and there is four brain, and there are other things. Those are all different things. I'm not talking about the medical. Okay, the right brain is the one which follows certain functions, and the left brain follows certain function. So I'll put that on the slide, and I want you to look at this thing, what you call, and if you want, you can note them down, because these are the different functions. These are things that like when we look even in cognitive skills, you will have found that we looked at how we respond, and all those come from basically something to do with how we use our right brain and the left brain. Okay, and these are terminologies. Okay, this is not the physicality of the brain. Most of the things in the left brain and the right brain are generally in that area. That's why it's referred to as such. So, in a very simple way, left brain is speaking, reading, writing, logic, analysis, calculation, evaluation, ordering, sequencing, putting things in particular sequences, particular orders, complex motor sequencing. So left brain is about that. If you look at it, this is generally what is done in what in our educational system. We refer to it as curriculum. Okay, not all of it. Okay, but most of it is curriculum, and you will realize why I'm saying that. But the right brain. So these are things we learn actually. Okay. Now I'm not saying speech. So how to construct sentences, what verbs to use, punctuations, all those things, reading, being able to recognize a language, then writing skills. These are all left brain skills. But right brain are what are generally called extracurricular. Okay, it is not necessarily all of them, but most of them. So using colors and drawing, having a sense of music, rhythm, being able to identify images, understand facial expressions, holistic ability, intuition, feelings, and perception of abstract patterns. So left brain and right brain. Okay, now these are two sides of the brain. Now, left brain is generally trained for through our educational system. Okay, right brain is something that we are to, for instance, speak a language. If it hears, it speaks a language. Okay, it doesn't have to go to school to learn to speak a language. I know a lot of, like children in Mumbai, who I met few at like this thing what you call Borivali Park and this and that. They learn French from the Tamilians. They've learned from the they've learned Punjabi. From the Marathi people, they've learned Marathi. It's that type of thing. Okay. But you can also go to a school and learn this, right? But in a school, you will learn something else. You will learn the grammar of it. You will learn. It's not by listening. It is by understanding and being be taught maybe what are called methods and formulas and things like that. And school does that to you. And that's also a wonderful thing, because a lot of things, inventions and all have happened is because of being able to use the left brain. But the imagination and all these other things comes in the right brain. So the right brain is what would say is more of the emotional intelligence, and the left brain is the what would say uh, the logical part of it. So but together intelligent quotient, logical and emotional. When I use the word emotional, it's more about being able to feel, to comprehend, to understand. All right. Now this is a statue, a very famous statue from Panjim. Can you tell me whose is it? You can put it in the chat box. It's only when you'll write in the chat box, I know you'll are listening and watching this, or you'll put it on and you'll have disappeared. Whose statue is this? I'll ask a question. If you see a statue, how do you know whose statue is it? It's a very famous statue from Panjim, and next to it there is a bus stop. And I remember, many years back when I stand at the top, I would generally ask people who are around me. I said, "Whose statue is it?" And they would, shrug their shoulders and say, "We don't know." For some of them, I think it did not matter. Abe Faria, many people have said, very good. Okay, but because he's the most famous, internationally most famous Goan. They study him in every university. In the doctors study him, educationists study him, because he had come out with what is called the theory of suggestion. It's a very important theory for all such people. Okay, but many people may not know who it is. Some of them may not even know he's a man. They think it's a woman or something like that. But if I ask a tourist, who is this guy, and they can, who are some tourists moving around that area, if I ask them who's this guy, they can tell me. And why they can tell me is because the local only looks, he doesn't think, or he doesn't ask questions to himself. So whose statue is this? Sits in a very prominent place. On one side is the statue of the first Chief Minister of Goa, Bhausaheb Bandodkar, and on the other side of the Adil Shah Palace is this statue. So he should be some significant, and he is a significant. What I am trying to get to. Why the tourist knows it is because they go and they watch it. They read over there below the statue. You can see a little this thing. What do you call it? A board there which says whose statue it is. Or they ask somebody whose statue is this. They ask the guide, or they refer to the book and they try to find out. They want to identify who is this. Like suppose if we go to Rajasthan, we'll had a food in this dining hall, and we would be, but we may not do it in Goa, because for us it is familiar territory. We presume we know, but we don't. when the answer is there with you, and the answer is there is when you have a question. So there is what is called, a very famous saying by Helen Keller, who said a worth in than not having sight is to not have vision. Helen Keller couldn't see, okay, and she couldn't hear as well, okay, and hence she couldn't speak. But anyway, she was able to be a very inspirational personality. But she was a very visionary person. I know a lot of people who are visually challenged. Picked it up visually. All right. So we have a sense of sight. We develop it into visioning skills. Now, sense it's fine. Somebody could have a sense of sight. People who see the statue have a sense of sight. They can see the statue. But visioning is wondering, why is this statue here? Whose statue is it? And that's where you're using your capacity and engineering. Now, don't tell me you can see a skull, and don't tell me you can see a lady sitting at a dressing table mirror. Tell me something. You can start typing it in the chat box. What do you see? What does it look like? One thing, yes, it's a woman sitting before a dressing table, but that's obvious. Like I'm very obvious skull. But there are more than I think 100 images in this chart. If you would only see, and not just see, deeper. And what do you see? And if I were to ask a 2-year-old here, they would tell me a lot of things. And I've done it with very young children also. For instance, a 5-year-old said that it looks like X-ray sheet. Okay, somebody said boat in a water. 2 people said boat. That's great. There are 3 boats actually. Okay, one is the black triangle. That is the sail of a sailboat, or it is the hull of a steamer coming towards you. So it becomes 2 boats. The other boat is the larger, the table. It looks like a boat itself. Somebody said moon on the clouds and its reflection. Excellent. So the moon, okay.
Hello. I think the speakers got disconnected. Please hold on. We'll try to get it resolved. I request everyone to hold on for 1 2 minutes. The speaker is having some network issue.
Can you see me now?
We can hear you but not see you.
Can I be seen now?
Not yet.
Nothing at all. Now can you see me? Now can you see me?
Yes, yes.
I'll you saw the picture of the elephant? Okay. I'll you saw the picture? Did you see the elephant? Did you see the picture of the elephant? I'd shown a picture of an elephant. I'll show it again. What I want you to do is tell me how many legs does that elephant have? Okay. Can you see? I need somebody, at least one person, to acknowledge that.
We can see the picture now.
Yes, it is visible.
You can see the slides, right?
Yes, yes.
How many legs does this elephant have? You saw the elephant, right? Now, how many legs did that have?
That's an impossible shape.
Tell me. No, no, I'm asking you, how many legs does it have? It is an impossible drawing. It is a trick one. Somebody said 4 legs, somebody said 4, 5 legs, generally 4, but I asked how many legs this elephant has. Now you can't see the slides because I put the slide off. Okay. Somebody said 8, 6, 4, 8 legs. Now my question is, if you had to describe, you have seen this picture and you had to describe it to somebody. And if you said the elephant had 8 legs or 6 legs or 5 or 4, would they see the picture you saw in their mind? Would they be able to visualize? And if they won't be able to, if they can't visualize, it means that you have not seen right. So actually the elephant, somebody said it was an impossible drawing. Yes, but what was the how was it done? There was an elephant with 4 legs, but even if I'll put that visual up again, and I will also describe it, so that you can see it. If I were to tell somebody that I saw an elephant with 4 legs, okay, a standing elephant with 4 legs that was drawn by an artist, but what happened was that there was a trick done by that artist. And what was the trick? He combined the back of the trunk to the front of the first leg to draw a foot. Okay. Then he connected the gap between the first and second leg and drew a foot. And the gap of the second and third leg he drew a foot. Gap of the third and fourth leg he drew a foot. And he also completed the foot at where the fourth leg stood. So the elephant actually had 4 legs, but on ground, because they were drawn in the gaps at most places, they ended up looking like that they were, 5 on ground. Now, if I describe like this, the probability of that other person visualizing what I saw, meaning me being able to transfer what I saw to that person, increases. And this is what I'm talking about. It's not enough to see. One is to see in detail. You have to be able to look at the legs, look at where they're going, where they're connecting, why they're not connecting. See, the left brain can tell you, this is an impossible one. And you're not wrong, right? But by itself, this information is not enough to transfer to somebody. If you tell somebody, I saw, all impossible drawing of an elephant, that's not good enough for that person to understand what you saw. For that person to see, you have to use what is called visual vocabulary. And visual vocabulary describes, it tells. It's almost like a story. But before you can tell a story, you should have understood the story. You should have noticed the details. You would have noticed what has happened. And then you can tell a story well. Okay. And why I'm saying this is the way we tend to tell stories, or with the way we tend to maybe just if we are looking at in terms of telling something to somebody, we tend to tell in very few words. I like to give this instance that it really happened when I was in traveling by bus once, and somebody got a phone call, and this is what he did. He said in the bus, and that time mobiles were just new, so everyone didn't have a mobile. This guy had one, and it rang, and he said, "Huh? Hey, मग ये हो गया ना. Whatever. He was disturbing the entire bus and they didn't even know what they were being disturbed about. But imagine if that same person were to talk like this. Hello, Peter. Hi, what happened? You met with accident? Where at JMC? Bumble? Go to the hospital. Nothing happened to you. Bike got damaged. What bike? Black Activa. 7982 number. Correct? And everyone in the bus is noting down the number. Okay. He's describing. He's being able to tell. He's being able to this thing. So, even the ones, he's hearing something or he's seeing something, but he's able to transfer. Why is able to transfer? Because he's describing. And what we do is, I ask people, how are you? Fine. Where are you? Here. We talk in single words. So we're not describing. Now, if somebody says, how are you? You are, I don't know, in our school, we were taught to say, I am fine, thank you. And how are you? We have to say someone, So we tend to answer in single word. Now I'm saying, there could be times when you have to answer in single word. That's a different thing. But most of the time, you'll have to at least use maybe a phrase, if not a sentence. You have to be able to describe. And this ability to describe is your ability to use that skill that comes from your visioning. Okay. So try and make it, how can I describe better? That's going to be very, very important. Now this had got to do with seeing, sense of sight, and I got some other visuals also, but you will have to get into the chat box and should talk about those visuals in a very quick way. Okay, so I'm presenting the slides again. The next visual you have to be able to tell. All of you, I want you to attempt this and tell it. You will tell me how many planks are there in that particular picture. How many planks are these? Yes? How many planks are these? You can write the answers in the chat box, or if somebody wants to even open the mic one at a time and tell also, it's fine. Four. Look properly. 3, 4. Look properly. 3 from one side. Vishnu Chari, correct. He said 3 from one side, 4 from another. Now, what the left brain tries to tell you, this is rubbish. How it is possible? This type of a picture, 4 on one side, 3 on the other. You're just being asked how many planks are these, and you see 4 on one side, and you see 3 on the other. And now you're not even trying to reason out. You're just describing as you see. But you would have to describe it, right? 3 from one side, 4 from another. That's what I can see. And that's what you need to be able to tell. So this again is, what is called an impossibility drawing. And I'll show you one more picture. There are many such pictures, but I'm just showing you. Look at this picture. What does it look like? What does it look like? Horse and rabbit. Good, rabbit. Horse. What I want you to do now is, turn your head to one side and look. Somebody already seen a frog. Okay, it's actually a picture of a frog. Okay, it has just been turned and it looks like a horse to you. So visioning is also about seeing from the other side. What I'll do is I will just turn it around for you. Okay. So this is a frog, this is a horse, like some people saw it before. I'm showing you another picture, and this one you have to look at it upside down, and what can you see? And like I'm just taking this forward, I'm not spending time on that, but you could have thought something in your head. But this picture is actually of an island with two trees, a boat, a man in the boat, and there is also this thing, what you call a big fish there. But when we looked at it otherwise, it looked something else, right? So this is seeing from the other side, seeing from how it looks otherwise, and that is a very important thing. Visioning skills, is about that. Now like I want you to some more slides now. I'll interact with you, and this thing, what you call. I want you to like type out the answer very fast. Okay, fastest fingers first. All right. But before that, I want all of you, to say loudly wherever you are. Say the word. Say it loudly. Okay. Wherever you are, say it loudly. Say the word silk. 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 Loudly. 6 times.
Silk,
Silk.
silk,
Silk. Silk. Silk.
silk,
Silk. Silk. What do cows drink? Type fast. What do cows drink? Type.
water,
Good.
water,
Somebody said milk.
water,
Well,
water,
good.
water.
Good. Water is right. Cows drink water, but somebody said this thing. Now, why I did this activity, like, in fact, to all those who said water, now this is for all of you. Say loudly 6 times the word spot. 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 Spot.
Spot,
Spot.
spot,
Spot.
spot,
Spot.
spot,
Spot. And the traffic
spot,
light, if you see green color, what
spot.
should you do? No, don't say now. Tell me the answer. Traffic light, green color, what should you do?
Move, go,
You're taking too much of time. Too much of time. Too much of time. This is why the light has changed now. It has become red. But what I'm trying to say now is, you are now, like being this thing. Like, if you're really good at listening, you'll be able to answer despite the distraction. What is the distraction here? It's called noise. In sound, in listening, in hearing, there's something called noise. You say silk, answer comes out milk. Okay? It's what you keep saying. And there's something called psychological noise. What Abe Faria is known for, I'm telling it in very simple ways, okay? Power of suggestion is what you suggest to yourself or what somebody else suggests to you. So if you suggest to yourself, then you can't do it, I can't do it, you won't be able to. But if you say, suggest to yourself, I can't do it, you find it easier to do it. Okay? And I can give you an example of this, a very easy example that you'll have seen. The last batsman in a cricket team is not a batsman. He's a bowler. That's why they're sending him last to bat. But those guys don't seem to have any doubt about themselves or any false illusions also about whether they are batsmen or not. They only know they have to go and play. Okay? And they always walk with great confidence. They don't seem to be worried. And such players sometimes end up winning the match for the team also. They could be out on the first ball, but they could also score. And they don't have a feeling of failure. They don't have a sense of shame. They know I'm not a batsman. And all these things work wonders for them. And you have a lot of, in fact, nowadays in cricket teams, they value such players. In fact, India cricket team is to have one guy called Kirmani, who was a wicketkeeper in the test team, who used to come last. He used to come last to bat, number 11. And he had scored a test century. And he was obviously considered to be the least among the batsmen. The other bowlers were all all-rounders, like there was Madan Lal, there was Roger Binnian. They used to come before him to bat. But Kirmani did not have a sense of shame of being the last person. He knew he was a batsman also. And this is important. What you believe. Now, a lot of our beliefs are based on conditioning. somebody else telling us, somebody else, repeating something. Somebody is saying, you can't do maths, you're stupid at maths, you're hopeless at language. It had happened to me, when I was in the 5th standard, there was a teacher who actually, there was a misunderstanding. The teacher thought I was doing some mischief and said, you're hopeless at Hindi, and, was very, what you'd say, um, not allowing me to speak, not discouraging me all the time. And I lost interest in Hindi. Until the 10th standard, I had to study Hindi and I hated the subject and I used to struggle with it. And many years after I was out of college, 2 or 3 years after I was college, I happened to do a short-term course and I learned to speak and write Hindi in hardly a week. And I get called for Hindi Divas and I speak in pure Hindi. And I wonder why I struggled in school. Something that I learned in a week actually. But by the time I learned in a week, my hatred of Hindi had gone. And also I had come to a situation where I was not under any pressure. I was able to remove that pressure, but the fact that I needed to score some marks in Hindi to pass, that itself was a huge pressure on me. And when that wasn't there, it became easier for me to learn. I had actually learned it because I was taking part in a Hindi play. So I was understanding diction. It was like saying some new language that I was trying to learn, and I learned it very well. And it became easier for me after that. Okay. Of course, I learned grammar and things later, much more of it much later. But it was all easier. Why? Because of the suggestion I make to myself. So these things, like we have our 5 senses, and I'll talk about them more later. But now, like I will go to the next part. These 5 senses that we have, they help us, really develop our sensitivity for the various skills. Okay. Can you see my screen? Hello. Okay, I'll again try it. Google does have this problem. So we have the sense of hearing, we have the sense of taste, we have the sense of touch. So sight is called, like it's referred to as the visual sense. Hearing is referred to as the auditory sense. Okay, and we are able to, this thing, they club the other 3 as kinesthetic. So different people, there will be some of us who are more visual, some of us who are more auditory. But eventually, the more senses that you can use, the better it is. Okay, and we can't really say that I'm not good at senses or something like that. You can see the slides right now, right? So now it's about thinking out of the box. Okay, this was something like I always like to share this because it happened to me in college. Actually, it was the higher secondary when we joined the higher secondary 11th standard. There was a sir who came and he said, we're going to play with maths. You're going to think out of the box. So he said, if there are 2 points at equal distance to each other, what will you get? And we eventually were able to say, you'll get a line. Then he said, if there are 3 points at equal distance to each other, what will you get? So we said, triangle. He said, 4 points at equal distance to each other, what will you get? He struggled over that because whatever we said, he was able to prove. Four points at equal distance to each. What will you get? Pyramid. Good, Swapnil. Now what Swapnil has done is he's taken a triangle and he's taken the fourth point outside. So he stepped outside the plane. Thinking out of the box is this. And that was a wonderful lesson, that maths teacher, his name was Joe Menezes. He taught us that. And I think it was a wonderful lesson. Most of us think in the box. And, in fact, in our educational system, we have the opportunity to go to a educational institute and, learn. But some of us choose to learn only from syllabus. And some of them, it's not even the syllabus that is being taught, it's the syllabus that will come in the question papers. And then you make choices and you drop out stuff. So nothing wrong in focusing on, how you can score better. Nothing wrong in that. But definitely wrong if you're skipping learning. Why? Because in your real life, it's the learning that's going to be useful for you. Okay? And that's going to be important. That how do we think out of the box? And you think out of the box if you start being much more adaptable, open-minded, and you start doing things not because they are easy or they have to be done, and not because of that. You start doing things because you start playing around with, using your imagination. And you can see my screen again, right? So I'm going to a few slides and then we'll come back for some interaction. So think out of the box is going to be something very important. In fact, there is this beautiful concept of lateral thinking that Edward de Bono came up with. And I would recommend that you read his books, Edward de Bono's books. There is a book of, serious creativity. Then there is lateral thinking. There are books called Six Thinking Hats, Six Thinking Shoes. The thinking hat, the thinking shoes, they are written quite interestingly, but the earlier books, they are a little bit they are not printed so well and things like that. But it's very interesting stuff and very practically useful stuff. How do you think out of the box? And that's a beautiful thing. So when we look at design thinking, you start with thinking out of the box, and then you start, like I showed you that picture, you see the picture from the other side. Empathize. Empathy. Empathy is to put yourself on the other side. And in this, there could be an element of understanding, but most of it is imagination. Like suppose, I see a garbage collector, all right, or somebody who sorts out garbage. I may not have done it ever, but I can empathize with them. What is it that they're doing? Or, I see a farmer, or I see a mechanic, all right, or I see a person, with maybe a visually challenged person, or I see different types of people, and I may not have been exposed. Like, I always say this to men, we men, we can't really understand what a woman feels like. Okay, if people are staring at her, we can't understand it, right? But we can empathize. We can try to put ourselves in their shoes, so to say. There was this movie called Bandit Queen where Shekhar Gupta had directed this film, and in that there was the rape of that protagonist, who then becomes a dacoit. Bandit Queen she becomes. So now to shoot that scene, he locked himself in a room, a very small room, dark room, for quite a a period of time, to feel that he is all blocked out, he doesn't have an option, and it is feeling helpless, feeling angry, feeling sad, feeling all those things at the same time, to try and empathize with the predicament. Okay, we have to define the problem. Before you come out with an answer, you must know the question. So what's the question you're answering? That's very important. So defining the problem, confirming that that's what is the thing to be solved is important. Then ideate. I had done a session on ideating earlier. I don't know if some of you attended that, but it's to be able to not only come out with ideas, you have to be able to flesh out those ideas, develop them, take them forward, and there is a process for it. There are various methods. I had shared that time one very beautiful method called mind mapping. But there is brainstorming, and I'd also explain how you do that in a group and how you can also do it individually. In a group, it's easier, but individually also you can do it. Then the prototype. This also I had spoken about, earlier, and I'll speak about this later also. But basically, when we are looking at giving a sort of a method, or rather, I would say a path to the thinking, like suppose if you have water that is flowing here and there, and you give it a channel, and then you can take it to wherever you want to. You can also be flexible about that channel, but you need to have a channel, right? Otherwise, the water is not going to go anywhere by your control. It's going to go by its own control or other situations, circumstances. You need to confirm, you need to evaluate, you need to, test it. So that's why you come out with the prototype. Prototypes, I had explained that in the ideation workshop, so I won't go in detail over here, but prototypes are of different types. It could be, what you would say, it could be a plan, it could be an actual model, it could be a functional model, it could even just be a description. Okay, but that's a more difficult thing. A functional model will be the easiest one because everyone can see it. Describing it, it doesn't depend only on you, it also depends on other people. So like I said, there are 5 senses, so how we use 5 senses, and we may be, what you'd say, better at, than the other senses, not that you use all your senses, but you're better at maybe a particular sense. So, maybe some of you are visual, or, some of us are visual, I would say, or some of us are auditory, and some of us are kinesthetic. Now, what visual does, it teaches you visioning skills. The auditory teaches you listening skills. Okay, listening skills means removing the noise. I did that activity based on listening skills of silk, and things like that. That's just noise. But I also spoke about psychological noise, which you hear inside. It's not from outside; it's from inside. Something that either like encourages you or discourages you. Largely 2 areas that it is. It prevents you from doing things, or it allows you to do things. Then the sense of smell, the sense of taste, and the sense of touch, these are called kinesthetic, I told. So people are different. Like, suppose if I'm a salesman of, suppose I'm selling refrigerators, and a customer comes to me, I try to find out what, as a customer, so what have you come to this thing? So, he says, I've come to buy, I heard about a scheme of yours that, so he says, heard. Or somebody says, I saw. Now you need to confirm, so whether the person is visual or auditory. So suppose if he says, saw, sir, where did you see? So he says, no, I didn't actually see, I heard. And then you get clarification. But once you get this, you understand how they are looking at it, you can respond accordingly. So if it's a visual person, you can talk visually to the person. You can use visual vocabulary. If it's auditory, you can use auditory vocabulary. Auditory vocabulary is where you talk about sound, and you talk about, you also use words that have that type of sound. And that's how you, people who are into selling, that this is what sets them apart. Because you're not selling with your skill, you're selling as per the requirement. And all of us sell, we sell ideas, we sell plans, we sell ourselves, we want somebody to buy us or, believe in us, trust us. So we are selling all the time. It may not always be a product or a service. It could be a personality that you're selling. Or, you want people to invest in what you are trying to say. And, there are so many things. Or you have written a book and you want somebody to publish it. And you have to be able to sell it. And when you sell it, you need to be able to understand the senses. The good news is that you are born to use the senses. Nobody has really taught you how to use the senses. If you had a sense of sight, you used it, all your imagination, you looked around, this, that, and you saw. Auditory, like they say children by the age of 7 or 8 can learn 7 or 8 languages if they hear them and people talk to them in those languages. And this is a wonderful thing. Right? So later on, maybe some people have special skills, like people who can pick up languages even later on. That's a special talent maybe. But otherwise, all of us are born with the capacity. Now, I'm not saying you'll speak grammatically correct and this and that. You'll speak what you hear. So suppose you hear a Allahabadi Hindi person, you'll speak Allahabadi. And you hear a Haryana fellow Hindi speaker, you'll speak Haryanvi. Okay. And you speak to a Rajasthani Hindi person, you'll speak Rajasthani technically. They tend to use their words. So it is all to that. Like, and it changes from region to region. So it depends on the person. And you start, talking like that. And this all of us can do. So we use the skills. We use the senses to develop skills. Sense of sight, visioning skills. Sense of auditory, listening skills. The other three senses, like sense of smell and taste, discerning skills, making out the difference. Okay, like you can be, whether you given gobi Manchurian or chicken Manchurian, if you close your eyes and eat, can you make out what it is? Most people can't, because you don't taste the chicken and the gobi in it. You just taste the masala. You swallow, and then you cannot this thing. We had, I think, there was a youth festival, creations in the MP college when we were in college, and one of the things was, there were a lot of, they were asked, like, whoever are cigarette smokers to come, they will be blindfolded and you have to smell a cigarette and tell whether it is, which brand is it. They had kept some 5 brands or something. And most smokers couldn't identify. Or there could be people, who pride themselves that they can make out their whiskey, and you ask them. Or there could be someone who can make out their fruits. Can you smell and tell which fruit it is? Or, you say perfumes or soaps. Okay, you say you use a particular soap, and if somebody puts that before you. In fact, if I was having a real workshop, I would actually blindfold some of you, and I would make an illusion of this entire thing. You would see your own soap. Suppose you said, like a particular soap with a particular fragrance, with a lime fragrance or whatever. You said in your own mind. You just wrote it out on a paper, and I would get it before you, the smell. But I would not actually get the smell. It was your imagination that will get the smell. So if somebody doesn't have that, one is the input. You should have got that smell, and then you have to remember it and imagine it. Now moving to the third part, the critical thinking. Okay, there is our Constitution of India, and there is an article called 51H, which is about fundamental duties. What are our fundamental duties? We have different duties. So one of them, okay, there are H. In A, it is fundamental duties. This is H. To develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. Okay. Scientific temper and the spirit of inquiry and reform straight away are talking about critical thinking. And this critical thinking comes from very simple stuff. Okay, and that simple stuff is being able to have an attitude of mind which calls for a particular outlook or pattern of behavior. So what is this particular outlook? Scientific outlook, of course. It means it is something that's not just for India. It is like if you go to America, it's the same. You go to Africa, it's the same. China. Scientific temper won't change. Okay, we may be having different value systems, but what this 51A is calling that it should become the dominant value system. So everyone should have scientific temper. Okay, so when you don't have scientific temper, you start believing anything. So like there were some people, when the new 2000 rupees notes came, and there were many very well educated. In fact, there were engineers, there were doctors who told me, that there is a chip in it and all that. And just because they were saying something, they believed it. And people believe this, And today we have a lot of people on social media who believe anything. Okay? I met, a very old friend of mine some few months back, and he was telling me before the lockdown, we had met, and he was telling me that one day somebody sent him a WhatsApp that one of his neighbors died. Okay, his neighbor. So this fellow forwarded it to a lot of people. Eventually it was realized that fellow was not dead, and that fellow came to fight with him. So he said, I received it from somebody. He said, no, you forwarded it to people. Everyone's calling and asking my wife, your husband is dead. They're calling my children and saying your father is dead. Is this right? And he said, from that day, I don't forward anything to anybody. Even if somebody tells me somebody is dead, I say, okay, sorry to hear about it. That's it. I finish it with me. I don't pass it on. I need to find out, right? I need to confirm. And I have tried this with a lot of people, when they forward you something, when you ask them a question, they say, I've just received it. I don't know about it. They send you, like messages saying that call so-and-so a number, and they give you some scholarship. And all students are phoning that number, and the number doesn't exist. And it's a message that has been going on for the last 10 years. Very scientific temper gone, very critical thinking gone. Okay, so now it should exist as a dominant value system, powerfully influencing the way we think and approach our problems, all of them, social, political, economic, cultural. Okay. And we have a lot of people, and these are people who are educated. These are people otherwise who have competencies, who have academic capabilities, who have the capability to think, and they may even be good at what they do. But they could still be this thing. I remember this, I don't want to take the name, it's a very the iconic figure. There was a person who, he was an outstanding lawyer that time. And when he was in school, he was slightly senior to us. He was very intelligent. Always known as a great orator, good at debates, fantastic. But one day I found him pushing his kinetic Honda. So I stopped him. I said, what has happened? He said, I don't know, it just stopped. So I said, let's put it on the stand. Let's check out. Okay. So I tried to start. It wasn't starting. So I said, let's check the petrol. So I opened this and found that there was no petrol. And he looked at me sheepishly and said, I didn't even think of it, that petrol could be over. I thought something's wrong with the bike. So I was now going to push it and take it to some mechanic. And then we got in petrol and then he was able to go. He was a very intelligent fellow. Now, if you buy a bike, you must try to understand at least some things of it, shouldn't it? Now, that is scientific thinking. He was a very, like what you'd say, he was a proven intelligent person, otherwise, but not in everything. Now, scientific temper is not about being intelligent. Scientific temper is about being somebody who cannot be made a fool. Intelligent people can be made fools, but somebody who can't be made a fool. So you have to basically be able to ask questions. If you were doing a real workshop, I would have done this for you to show you that fire can't burn you. Why? Because this is something you have seen. You have seen your mothers turn a chapati up on a tawa, and they don't get burned. Okay, you may have seen visuals of people walking on fire. It happens in Shirgaon, and you think it may be some other thing. It's a scientific thing. Your skin doesn't burn unless that fire is on that part of the skin for more than 3 seconds. So as long as it's moving, so suppose you make somebody stand on fiery coals, they'll get burnt. But when they walk on them, they won't. Okay. So being able to ask questions, how, why, what. Okay. Now, why I'm saying this now is when we were children, I'm sure many of you will have done that. If there's a candle, you put your finger like this, like this, like this. You play in the flame, you don't get burned. And you can some of us were even bolder, and you would snuff it out. Something we have done, something we know about, and that's very important. Being able to ask questions. This is something, the Gautam Buddha said this, and it's a wonderful thing, and I really believe it, that this is something that we should be able to. I hope some of you could note this. You don't have to note it right now. It's easily available on the net also. What Buddha said about believe nothing merely because you have been told it. Or because it's traditional. It has been happening for years. Ashet chalta le, aisa hi hota tha. No. Don't accept it just because it's traditional. Or because you yourself have imagined it. Don't believe it even that. Okay. But do not even believe what your teacher tells you merely out of respect for the teacher. That's also not a good thing. You have to be able to, check it out. So whatever after due examination and analysis you find to be conducive for the welfare of all beings, and Buddha was talking of not just human beings, all beings. That doctrine, believe and cling to it and take it as your guide. Okay, and that is what he meant by what is called rational thinking. Okay, but he also is speaking of all beings. So like there is a concept of Bhujan Hitaya, Bhujan Sukhaya, in the interest of everybody and in the for the joy of everybody. Something that's for the good of everybody and in the interest of everybody. Okay, so that thing. So you think, you question, you go for answers, you ask clarifications. Don't just accept it because it is told you. Okay? So critical thinking is about, like certain steps, and I'll put them before you. The first one is observation. Observe. You have senses. Look, listen, think, question that what you're seeing. Confirm it. Observation is a very big skill. If you want to really do well in life, and we were born with, children are very good at observing. I remember, when my daughter was maybe 3-4 years old, and I had a motorbike, Kawasaki Bajaj, and one of my neighbors also had bought it at the same time, both of us. And my daughter could make out whose bike had come. It was the same make, same time we had bought it. So for us it sounded the same, but she could make out, and I was to be surprised, and she would, if my neighbor's bike came, she would tell my grandmother or somebody else, she would say that I have come, or I have not. It's the neighbor has come, or I have come, and it would be true. So then I began to listen. It was much more difficult for me, but I began to realize, yes, they did sound different. If you observed, you listened properly. Just observation is not enough. You have to be able to decode that observation. You need to be able to analyze it. You need to be able to get into, trying to get additional information based on your information, using your earlier experiences, using maybe thinking methods and analysis. Then you need to, based on the analysis, you need to come to some sort of an interpretation. Okay, and this is very important. It is an interpretation. It is not the final truth. There's a very famous scientist called Jayant Narlikar. He had come once to Kala Academy, and he was presenting a paper based on his study and the study of a lot of people around the world, whether there is life elsewhere in the universe. But the first line he used was, "I'm here to present my prejudices on the topic." Now he was obviously presenting a study of years, and not just his, but a lot of other people. But he had the, this thing to say prejudices. Because what he's saying, these are my findings as of now. I'm not declaring them to be the truth. They could change tomorrow. And this is a wonderful thing of critical thinking. Such fantastic study, but he was ready to say that as of now, it was the interpretation based on observation and analysis so far. That's what he was saying. Reflection, to be able to then think beyond. And we have this capacity to reflect. We have the capacity to bounce our thinking and take it forward. In fact, in ideation, it's not just the idea, it's a reflection of the idea that starts becoming important. Then you have evaluation. That even in this thing, what we were talking about, design thinking, the last step, evaluate. Now, what is evaluation? Evaluation, in fact, is a very important thing, because evaluation eventually becomes basis for the next observation. Suppose you're doing a particular type of thing and you're going to do the similar thing again, the previous evaluation also helps you, It becomes an observation of what went right, what went wrong. And being able to have evaluation, a lot of people don't go for evaluation, and that's why it's like an open thing. You have not closed it. Then inference, conclusion. Now conclusion is based on the evaluation. Evaluation is based on the reflection. Reflection is based on the interpretation. Interpretation on the analysis. Analysis on the observation. So it is all going back. So it is a step-by-step method. So your conclusion. Now you may come out with a conclusion. You may be right. You may not be right. But as of now, you think you are right. Okay. So you've come out with that particular conclusion. You have to be able to explain it. Just because I've come to a conclusion. Okay. I've come to a conclusion that maybe I'll just giving it as an example. I'm not getting into any other detail. But suppose there is some project that is happening in Goa. Okay, you have come to the conclusion that it is bad for Goa, or you have come to conclusion that it's good for Goa. Whatever it is. It's possible to have this conclusion. But can you explain it? Now to explain, your conclusion has to be with great clarity, and then all those earlier steps start becoming important. Right? So a lot of times we are jumping to a conclusion. We are not having observation, analysis, interpretation, nothing. Directly we are jumping to an inference, a conclusion, and then that is what we are trying to explain. Then critical thinking just doesn't stop at a conclusion and an explanation of it. It tries to solve the problem. You can probably identify a problem. Okay. So the conclusion that it is a problem. But critical thinking goes beyond. It goes to problem solving. And this is again a very wonderful thing, problem solving. It has methods. I had done a bit of it the last time I did the session. So I'm not getting into that. But you have to be able to, come out with eventually from that problem solving, decision making. And maybe I'll maybe give you some particular example. There was environmental workshop that we were doing, and there were two of the resource persons, very eminent persons. One Prakash Salkar, who was a forest officer then, and Rajendra Kelkar, who was an expert on the environment and ecology of Goa. They were speaking to the students, and I was one of the persons, and they both spoke about water. And they talked about how water is a depleting resource, how just 3% of Earth's water is actually, available for drinking, and that too, a lot of it is getting contaminated or being reduced at source, or it's flowing into the seawater. Okay, so it's getting wasted, basically. So there was this entire thing, how water is important, why we need to look after our ecology, and they were telling a lot of things. There was a young boy there who said, he stood up and he said, "Sir, I have heard in the Gulf, they are converting salt water into drinking water using technology and machines. An entire apparatus is used to do that." So my question is, this is what the boy was saying, my question is, should we then bother too much about it? Even if we can get the machinery and the equipment and the method to convert salt water into drinking water, what's the worry? And both the gentlemen, they explained, but when they were trying to, I said, let's all do critical thinking. So the observation was that we can, there is a way to convert salt water into drinking water. Lovely, no? And then we got them to do a lot, not all these steps because they were young children, but we did many of them. Like there were observations that came in. So where other places, like for instance, similar things have been done. Technology has helped, and many examples were given. And then I picked up one of them. One of them was the Jaipur foot. People who have lost their limb, their legs. There was a story of Sudha Chandran, a dancer who lost legs in an accident, and then Jaipur foot was put on her, and she continued dancing. She became an actress, and she did very well for herself. And a movie was made on her life also, with her acting in it. And this is a wonderful story. And she's even acting now in films and television serials and doing well for herself. So now that was mentioned. So I said, let's take that as a thing. So we analyzed what had happened. We interpreted, we reflected, we came out, and like everything. We came out to the point of problem solving. Then when it came to decision making, that's now why I'm explaining this. How does decision making? So I said, since we have Jaipur foot, should we cut our legs? We have the Jaipur foot, right? Will you cut your legs because you have the Jaipur foot? So that young boy and as well, everybody said, no, no, no. So I said, what this gentleman, very wise people are trying to tell you is, when you have it, why do you want to spoil it? When you can retrieve it, why are you giving up on it? Why are you looking for something else? And this was, like it was a very interesting exercise. And when both of them, they explained, like how, when it's easily available and it's available as a resource, it's generally available for free. For people living in the forest, for people living in the villages, water is for free. They're not paying for water, right? They're getting fresh mineral water. What we get is what we call mineral water bottles. They are bottled water. They are not mineral water. Okay. They in fact now write bottled water. They don't write mineral water. But this is really mineral water. It's rich in a lot of very useful stuff. So this is an example that I have given you of this thing. Now, eventually, whether you're using your cognitive skills, you're using the method of design thinking and using critical thinking, it is to innovate. Okay, and I'm putting before you an example of it being in the hand of an innovator. Okay, so we have 5 fingers. All 5 fingers have distinct qualities. So, like say, for one of them is a thumb. Okay, now the thumb's uniqueness, it can easily connect with all the fingers. Okay, right? Easily connect with all the fingers. So it can stretch out. So one of the things, when you see, what I mean by stretch out is look deeper and wider. When you listen deeper and wider. And stretch out. Get out of the comfort zone. Reach out. Get there. Like the thumb. Okay. So this is one quality you have to do, is to be able to stretch out. Now the second quality is of the index finger. The index finger, you will notice in a lot of statues, something, it's used to indicate something. Okay. So it points out, and in general in statues, it's pointing out to something up there or ahead there. So it is to do with vision. Now this is not just about the visual thing, it's a larger thing of vision, being able to imagine, to be able to see something that's not there, to see what you want there. So that's vision. The middle finger is taller than all other fingers. Okay. So that is something that can see things from above. Okay. Now, not in all hands. At one particular place, one fellow stood up and he said, "My other finger is taller than the middle finger." So it's quite possible. You have to be open-minded about all such things. And from that day, I tell you, in most hands, it is the tallest finger. So it sees the larger picture. It sees things from up. So we need to be able to see the larger picture, not look just at the thing that's immediate and this. Yeah, you must see what is the detail, but you must also see the larger picture. The fourth, it's called the ring finger, because it's believed to be connected to artery that goes straight to the heart. So you wear the ring on it, but it refers to feeling. I'm using it as an imagery for feeling, emotions. Being able to empathize, being able to feel the pain, feel the joy, feel the happiness of other people, or even other things. The small finger, it has got the best grip. You try with all fingers, it slips out. But the small one, the little finger, got the best grip. So it's about bonding. It's about connecting. And this is very important. Like when I was referring to the lack of speaking in single words, it's because we don't want to connect. We just want to get out of it. Your mother is asking, so what you did today in class? Oh, end of story. You can tell her that, I'll tell you later. I'll tell you, but I'll tell you later. Maybe you are busy, no problem. But the thing is, you don't want to tell at all. Okay. I'd seen a wonderful video, there is a old man, he's asking his middle-aged son, he's saying, what is that? So he says, it's a sparrow. So after another 5 minutes, he asks me, what is that? So he said, it's a sparrow. And, he's telling every 5 minutes, he's asking the same question, the elderly person. The answer. So there was somebody is passing by, he said, you don't get irritated that he's asking you the same question and, you're repeating the same answer. He said, when I must have been busy, I must have asked him many times, what is that? And he must have said sparrow. And I must have asked him, what is that? And I must have said, because that is a bond. Generally the parent will have the bond for the young baby. You tend to feel that you're responsible for the baby, that you are connected to the baby. And you then, the way you communicate, the way you respond is based on that bond. So you must bond, you must, suppose you are in a team, in team bonding is a very important criteria for team working. It's a very important criteria. And it is a very important this thing like stretch, vision, larger picture feeling bond. But your fingers, they say, are useless if your wrist is broken. The wrist is very important. Your fist or the single finger by themselves or two together or three together, the wrist gives it them their strength, and that wrist is being able to be very adaptable, open-minded, ready to unlearn what you have learned before. Okay, so when you come to something that you can't, they say you can't really relearn unless you unlearn. Now, there are different types of unlearning. One is unlearn the unnecessary. Okay, what is irrelevant now or what is not required, that you can unlearn. There is also unlearning done just to learn fresh. And I'll give you an example of this. There was a very beautiful limerick. I think I'll stop the presentation here. I'll come back to screen so that I can see you, and because now we'll move on to, like maybe even interacting. You could even put your, like cameras and mics on, and you can ask me questions, and maybe some of you could give answers, or like I could give you answers. I don't have all the answers, but I definitely would love questions, and that is going to be very important. So children, like when they are very young children, they are born with this cognitive skills, the ability to use them by instinct. Okay, we are older, so we need to maybe use some methods as well. But I would also want you to be as childlike as possible.
Praveen, I think there's some network issue at your.
And it was a very beautiful color formation. It looked,
Your voice is yeah.
for me, it looked like a situation. And this wonderful, children.
Praveen, your voice
You
is
can't hear
breaking.
me?
Yeah, no,
Can you hear
your
me
voice is
now?
breaking. Yeah,
I'm typing. Can you hear me now?
yeah, we can hear you now.
I finished my inputs. Now I'm getting into what you'd say questions and trying to find some answers for those questions. So you can either type your questions in the chat box or you could ask me. Yes? Who would like, or I'll ask you some questions. So you can ask me questions on anything that you feel that you found maybe I didn't explain enough and you want some more explanation. We got some, I think, 20 minutes. Or I can talk more about something. All right, but I would rather, like we get this, all this in a camera and mic on speakers. See, design thinking, like what the steps I told you, if you go around it, it's a linear process. If it's a good thinking, it's like, I'll give you an example. Okay, now if I have to go from here to Mumbai, right? Now I can, I can go along the national highway, or I can go on the Pune-Bangalore highway. All right. Now, suppose if I choose, can fly from Bangalore, I can go to Bangalore to Mumbai. Or that type of a thing. And quite often, sometimes we are forced to take particular option because of a situation. So it becomes non-linear when you go front and back. So suppose in design thinking, when you get to your analysis, okay, you can, in critical thinking, you can go behind. So you can go front, back, and that's the beauty of it. But initially you start going through that linear process, and then you'll start be able to play around with it in a much better way. Somebody asked about more examples of critical thinking. I thought I gave you a very good example of that. Okay, I'll maybe give you another example of critical thinking. There was a very famous company called which was into glue, adhesives, gum to stick. So what they had a policy: never kill a project. Now what they mean by project is idea. It's a very wonderful thing. Idea, see, for us a thought is an idea, right? For them a thought is a thought, an idea is a project. So idea is a developed thought, more fleshed out thought. So one of the thoughts that came, as part of suggestions, was that we should make non-sticking glue, non-sticking gum, non-sticking adhesive. Now, when we look at something like this, it appears to be ridiculous, right? But the company, they went into a discussion on this, they tried to understand it, they analyzed it, and they're still not able to come to a very good inference. So they just put it up. It was put up on one of the pin-up boards. It was put up so everyone could see in the main manager's cabin. It was there, very prominently put up, that we need to do non-adhesive glue. And a lot of people would look at it and smile and smirk and say, what rubbish. Who will buy non-sticking glue? And a few months later, there was a person who came, a priest actually, who came with a very strange request. He wanted paper that could be stuck onto the Bible so that, he could go to that particular page and, could read what he wanted. And he could even write on that paper, make notes saying 4th paragraph, 3rd line. But when his task was done, he wanted to remove the paper and remove it out. So he wanted paper that would stick, but not stick. And there was a scientist there. And this is now the critical thinking part, There was a scientist called Silver Spencer, who had once by mistake made glue that didn't stick. So it was a mistake, but he had kept it written in the journal, what were the ingredients that went into it, and he pulled that particular file out and they made that glue. and that company 3M, they came out with the biggest product called post-it pads. It was the biggest product. So it came from a situation of, like something that seemed like an useless idea. Sometimes, an idea may not be workable now, or workable as you understand it, or workable for the situation you're going to apply for it. But never kill an idea. Don't kill a project. Okay. So don't give up on it. You can keep it. In cognitive skills, I said, you keep them in a knowledge bank. But now that Silver Spencer had not kept all his findings, what procedures he had done it in a very systematic way. Although it was a failure, somebody would have refused to maintain it as a file. It had happened by mistake. He hadn't gone to do non-adhesive glue. But it worked out that way. So, like when you use a particular process, you tend to, otherwise you tend to reject, like if you're in a hurry, if you're not using a process. So when an idea comes, you reject it. If somebody says something, no. So you get judgmental. But what these processes do for you is they make it developmental. They make it move forward. Okay. There's a question on the live stream. Are there any schools which use critical thinking for learning processes? It's a difficult question to answer because I don't think it depends so much on the school as it depends on the teachers. There are teachers, who encourage critical thinking, and I have met such teachers because I don't think it depends. I also met teachers who didn't encourage critical thinking. Some of them even discouraged critical thinking. Okay, so. But I think nowadays there are certain informal school critical thinking. Some of them even discourage, celebrate this as that they are doing right brain and left. But I think nowadays they are a little bit more conscious. Some of them even discourage, celebrate this as on the teacher. They are doing right brain and left. But I think nowadays, like I'll give an example. In Kanpur, there was a conscious. Some of them even discourage, celebrate this as on the teacher. They are doing right brain and left. But I think nowadays, like I'll give an example. Some of them even celebrate this as on the teacher. It happens in right brain and left. But I think try to find out who is this person and who's the geography teacher in that school. And we were shocked to find out that the principal was the geography teacher. Now imagine a geography teacher believing in the, what you would say, the wrong beliefs of an eclipse. Okay, you can't look at a solar eclipse by a naked eye. You have to take precautions. There are things to do. There are ways to do it, and all those type of things. But this was. Then there was another very intelligent friend of mine. I had gone once for a corporate training program to one of companies in Mumbai. Okay, this program was on the outskirts of Mumbai. So that day, most of those people, they get their. This was in Panvel, they come with their lunch tiffins, when they come to work. It was during their work time, the training program. So in the dining area, we were all sitting there, and they had organized some food for me, and all of them were opening their tiffins and having lunch. But this friend of mine, whom I knew, the HR manager, he wasn't. So I said, "You didn't bring your tiffin?" He said, "No." So I said, "Then you can eat along with me." So he said, "No." So I said, "Why?" So he said, "It's the eclipse. Today is the eclipse, so I don't eat." He said, "My mother believes it." So I said, "It's fine. I had no problem with that." Okay. What you do is not a problem. The problem is what you think. It's okay, it's okay not to eat. It's okay to fast. But if you think it has implications, that is the dangerous part. And he began to talk to me. He was feeling maybe a little bit awkward that, he is listening to his mother or something. I told him it's fine, it's okay. So he began to explain that what they would do once the eclipse was lifted. He said they would throw out all the water in the various containers and they would fill fresh water. And then they would cook fresh food. So I asked him, where will the fresh water come from? If water in a container in your kitchen, covered water, can get contaminated by the eclipse, Can't the water in the overhead tanks and the reservoirs and the water treatment plants and the ponds and the lakes, won't all that get contaminated because they are open to, they're much more open to the eclipse than what is in your house? And he had no answer. So you get what I'm saying? No, I don't have a problem that you fast, but I have a problem if you fast out of fear. And the fear is coming from a wrong belief. And now if you have studied geography and you know what exactly happens. See, when people didn't understand that geography and they believed that a demon was eating the, gobbling up the sun or something like that, that's fine. So it all eventually will depend on, so sometimes, one thing is, maybe, who is teaching science may not necessarily be the best science teachers. Okay. I found maybe people who are more interested in poetry who teach science. I found this thing, but this doesn't mean, I'm not saying I'm against this. I've found very good teachers. People can be sincere, but mainly they should have their unlearning done. They have also come from some school. They have come from some conditioning, and that's what this thing. But I do see, in a lot of schools. I have been to, rural schools. Like there was one school quite deep from Kolhapur. And it was a very rural school, it's like our village schools in Goa, the tiled roof and this. And they were having labs for every subject. Now they didn't have enough space. So the same room, one day it would be the English lab, the other day it would be the Hindi lab, third day it would be the Marathi lab, fourth day it would be the Sanskrit lab, fifth day it would be the French lab. If people had taken those options of the subjects. But what was this lab? Labs were all things that they could play with, there were things they could listen to, there were charts, there were books, there were models, there were this, there were so many things. And this is a model, I will put down, one name, Arvind Kumar Gupta. He is an IITian who gave up his with Tata, and he started making toys for tribal children. And all these toys are there in small 2-minute, 3-minute videos. There are some, like almost 300 or 400 such videos on his website. TED Talks. You have a lot of people, who speak there, and they share ideas, and they all maximum this person or somebody where we find it difficult to get the accent. You can read the transcript, it's wonderful. But basically, they find, like you can go to thinking, go to problem solving, and there are categories there, and you can find out people who have spoken on those things, and you'll be amazed. There was a man, James, who once did a presentation. Somebody whom I used to follow, critical thinking. He was a magician, right? So I'm doing a trick. They used to do even tricks like where they used to tie him up and they throw him in the water, this, and he used to come out. But he used to keep telling her, it's a trick, and people wouldn't believe. They were actually said that he was lying, that he had special powers as he had. And then he devoted his life to what is called the inquiry. And he inspired a lot of people. We have had some great scientists. We had even, like people who are spiritually inclined. Swami Vivekananda was a rationalist. Gautam Buddha was a rationalist. Okay, there is Periyar, there is thing, Naren Naik, Premanand, Bhagat Singh Chandrasekhar Azad. These are all rationalists. We have a wonderful tradition of rationalism in our country. And from the film stars, Katappa, from Bahubali, he's a rationalist. Okay, system does is it tries to, especially at the play level, at the primary level, they are discouraged from speaking. We're told to keep quiet. Like you want to ask it, but we are conditioned. No, I'm audience, I'm listener, and that you find a lot of young people like you and younger than you also, who get into friends of astronomy, who get into maybe something, start finding
Having some network issue or something.
can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. I think the speaker is having some network issues. Kindly wait for 1 2 minutes.
Take some questions if there are.
I think the speaker is having some network issue. Again, the last thing he asked was, if you have any questions, you can just type it in the chat or something. Also, the feedback link has been put up in the chat of this meeting, as well as in the chat of the YouTube's live stream. So it is mandatory that you fill that feedback, um, so that e-certificates can be sent. We'll wait for 2 minutes and see whether the speaker can connect again.
I think there are some network problems. I'll try calling Praveen in just a minute, and then we'll wind off. Jared, there are some network issues, I think. You can go ahead with the propose a vote of thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Um,
Jared,
yeah,
Praveen
Praveen,
is there. Yeah.
yeah.
Praveen, you can unmute.
Praveen, your mic is on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I had my pleasure interacting with you. I will circulate some slides, so that you can think more about it. Uh, uh, you are born to win. So I hope all of you will choose to win by using what you are born with, your senses, your capacity to think. I used to always love this line, that man is a thinking animal. So that both are true. We are thinking as well as we are animal. What I mean by animal is we have animal instincts. The senses and all, the right brain thing. These are by instinct, and it's a wonderful thing. So I hope all of you can, make most use of what we are born with, and stay close to being childlike. Don't be childish, but be childlike. Be playful. Speak up. Ask questions. Participate. Interact. Debate. Challenge, accept, learn, unlearn, and have a lot great time. The college is the best. University is going to be the best time of your life. I hope you can, make it last forever in your lifetime. The things that you will pick up now. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.
Um, Thank you, Mr. Sabnis. And on behalf of Goa University's IIC cell, I express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Praveen Sabnis, our speaker for today's workshop. I thank him for sparing his time from his schedule and giving us some insights into the different and various aspects that goes into thinking and trying to innovate the different designs. I would like to thank our Vice Chancellor, Registrar, for permitting us to have this session and supporting the workshop as such. Next, I would like to thank Goa University's IIC cell members, the faculty, staff, and students, and the technical team of Goa University who has made even the live stream possible. And last but not the least, special thanks to all the participants who attended this workshop. Uh, with this, the session has now ended. I thank you all for joining us today. Yeah, we may now leave the meeting. Thank you.